Any update on the squad, fitness-wise? Any fresh injuries or any updates on any of the players that have been missing?
I don't. No, we won't have anybody back for the weekend that missed out at Burnley, and we've got one or two knocks that we picked up in that game at Turf Moor on Tuesday night. So we're just waiting on them.
Any names you can give us?
No, sorry.
No worries. Lots of unwanted records at stake again this week. I think I saw longest run without a win at the start of a Premier League season.
I think I saw.
Longest win run in Premier League history.
Great.
You worry about stuff like that, I suppose, is the question. You know, do they play on your mind at all, those kind of records?
Rather we weren't. Because that'd represent us having a few more points on the board. So, yeah, it's not something I'm jumping through hoops about, mate, if I'm honest.
No, I'm not surprised. But do they? How do they affect what you're trying to do and the team and the belief, I suppose, as much as anything?
Yeah, of course it is. It's always going to affect belief and confidence if you're not winning games of football, even at the highest level, and what we're up against in this division. And it's a tough division to play in. At the best of times when you're playing at the top of your game. So when you're not and you're struggling for a little bit of form and a few players are missing through an injuries or two, it's a tough place to be at the moment. But it comes with the territory. When you don't win games of football, media exposure, opinion, it comes with all everything that happens in the Premier League when you're in runs like this. Thankfully, I don't get too up myself when we win, and obviously it hurts when we don't win. But we have to try and keep consistent and look at the next game to try and affect that and try and get a result.
We spoke to Chris Basham earlier, and he said that the group were determined not to have that tag as being one of the worst teams in the Premier League. And I just wondered, does that give you encouragement when you hear players looking at the situation themselves and taking that as a bit of motivation just to try and do something to turn this around?
I should just look at the next game and affect the next game. Don't worry about anything that you guys say or records. You know, what will be at the end of the season, as we talked about in every season that we've competed in. We're trying to add to the points tally we've got. The points tally that we've got at the moment is not very good, and you can't hide away from it. And we're not. We're just trying to affect the next performance, and hopefully that gives us an opportunity, like it has done 11 times out of 14 of getting a result. I think people talk about, you know, fine margins and as I've said to the players, you know, this in quite a few of our performances, they've been really no different to the ones that we had last year, and in some cases this year, better performances and not getting the right result. But we're all in it to get a result, and that's the biggest thing, and that's where we are at the moment.
And how about you and your role in motivating the players? Does that job get a bit more difficult every week?
No, not at all.
It is New Year. It's a good time for kind of at least looking forward. We all want to do that, I think, after the last year that's gone. Any resolutions for you going into the new year?
No, I've not really thought about it, if I'm honest, Ben. I've just been thinking about trying to do the job to the best of the ability, and looking at Crystal Palace. You know, tonight's not really come into my thought process. It doesn't really when you're in the game of football, and I've been in it since I was 16 years of age. So very, very few times that I've looked at this period and thought about resolutions or what I'm doing tonight or whatever. We're training today. We're training on Christmas Day. We're working away to a tough game at Crystal Palace at the weekend.
What do you make of the coronavirus situation at the moment? We saw obviously 2 games called off. It's the most number of cases we've seen since football came back. I mean, what is your feeling and your take on the situation in football at the moment?
Well, obviously we had a situation during the week where a couple of the players tested positive, and a couple of players on Tuesday morning had to go to Manchester Airport from Burnley through Manchester. to get to Manchester Airport to have tests. Fortunately for them, they came back negative. If they'd come back positive, obviously there would have been a situation regarding 2 or 3 of the other boys who were obviously close to and in contact with the couple of boys that went and got tested. But thankfully they weren't, and we carried on. And obviously we played the game on Tuesday night with a couple missing, and I think 4 or 5 of the staff missing as well. My overall view on it is, I think it's a different situation to when we first came into the pandemic. It's obviously ramped up enormously, and the speed of what's been happening over the last sort of 8 weeks has sort of changed the situation in the country and affected it enormously. But as always, we'll play with a straight bat. We'll do what the Premier League wants us to do. I've been consistent with that. I'm no expert on it. As I said, opinion it is different to the start, but I'll leave it to the Premier League and the Premier League medical department. They're experts, and our medical department. We are doing as much as we possibly can as a football club to go through the protocol, as I should imagine every football club is, from Premier League through the AFL. But certainly with the cases picking up as they are doing, and a couple of games recently being postponed, it seems to have changed direction a little bit, and it's quite sobering at the moment regarding what's happening.
I know, as you say, it's down to the Premier League to make the ultimate decisions, but would you be in favour of a pause to the season?
No, just crack on. I'm a football man. I want to play football. I want my team to want to come to work. I have that ability to do that at the moment. Quite fortunate, because a lot of people haven't got that opportunity to do that. But this is the job that we're in, and I want to work, and the team wants to play, and I'm not going to get called into what should happen or what shouldn't happen. I'll go along with the medical advice and the experts at the Premier League and the people that they employ to guide them.
It feels like, though, from what you're saying, it's definitely the most challenging period that you've had to face since the pandemic started. Is that fair? Yes,
definitely. Yeah, definitely. Obviously, everything was new at the start. In terms of the protocols and what we had to do, and it was a strange situation, none so than playing in front of empty stadiums, even though fortunately a few clubs had that ability to do it for a short period. We didn't have that ability to do it, but a few clubs did. I would have liked the ability to do that, but obviously didn't live in the right part of the country to do that. But yeah, it's challenging. There's a lot of huge challenges for us as a football club, for me as a manager in the second year in the Premier League, and we knew that when we first come into it. And obviously adding to that what's happening in the country so far, and what's happening in football. It's hugely challenging, but we'll give it a go and battle through.
Lovely. Thanks for your time, Chris.
Cheers, Ben. Take care, mate. Thank you.
And you. Thanks, mate.
Hi, Chris. First of all, an update on Sanderberger and Jack O'Connell. How are they getting in their respective rehabs at the minute?
Yeah, Xander obviously had an operation on his tendon and his hamstring, so he's really in early part of his recovery, and Jack he's on a mini break at the moment because he's worked extremely hard, but not for long. He's back with us, and then he'll crack on, and hopefully the sight of Jack O'Connell up at Shirecliffe will be a fabulous boost to us all.
You've talked a little bit about the COVID situation with the positive tests. Just how much has that sort of disrupted training and preparations for these games over the festive period?
This is what happens in professional football. Things come out the blue, and you have to adapt and react. It's not straightforward. It's not straightforward in terms of selection, injuries, illnesses. I've had it for for a long time. So I'm used to it. So it's how you react and to the various situations that go on in the day-to-day running of a football club and the life of a football manager. So ideally we'd like 25 players to playing at the top of the game, the sun shining, the rolling the ball across the pitch, and everybody at full tilt and playing the best football that they can play. But at the moment, as you've seen, that's not happening, and obviously major injuries to big players is hugely challenging for us.
I appreciate that there's regular illness issues and injury issues, but the situation at the moment does seem to be that there's extra players missing from various squads, with potentially fixtures now piling up with very limited time to reschedule them. Is there potential a bit of a fairness or integrity issue with the Premier League and the competition that you see going forward?
We'll play with a straight bat, Adam. We're not a big hitter in this division. We're not one of the big boys. We'll play with a straight bat, and we'll do as we're told. And stick to that, and try not to cause anybody any problems, and take our advice, advice from the Premier League, what they tell us to do, and hopefully they'll tell all the other 20 clubs that are in the competition at the same time to adhere to the same rules and regulations, and that's what we'll do, as we did on Tuesday, where we had a couple of positive tests and a couple of boys that were showing symptoms. As I said, we took them, did the right thing, informed the Premier League. Unfortunately, these boys, we don't want these boys to catch this disease. Whatever it's talked about, illness, and they want them to be fit and healthy, because I think everybody knows what it does to you and how it affects you, and certainly I've had close up information regarding quite a few of our staff who have had it and how they've been affected by it, and I think we've all got that story that's been told to us, but. We'll do what's right in the eyes of the Premier League and go from there.
And of course, all our best wishes are with those people that are affected by it, Chris.
Thanks.
In terms of incomings, I know you've said you wanted to try and move as quickly as possible in the transfer window. What is the likelihood that we will see at least one, if not a couple of new faces next week?
From my point of view, and the recruitment department, we've passed them on. And now it's at a level above me. So I would like to, and we do need, in my opinion, which I've always done to make the group better, and basically over to the chief exec and the board, for them to make that decision or to pursue the targets that we're looking at and the positions that we're looking at.
Is there potentially the situation on the field that are going to make it harder to get some of your top recruits in?
Sorry, Adam, I didn't understand that.
So in terms of your top targets this January, is the situation where you are in the league table and the position that you're in, do you think that will make it more difficult to land those top targets?
I think from a foreign point of view, yes, most certainly. I think from a domestic point of view, not necessarily. Because I believe that domestically, if we do bring a player in on loan, then he will understand the team maybe a little bit more, and understand and look at the stats, and of course the one stat that isn't pleasing on the eye is the points total, but the other stats in terms of subjectively and objectively how we've played and how close we've been to wins, those players will have nothing to lose. If the player comes in to Sheffield United, he comes in as a loan signing, he doesn't come in as a permanent signing, he doesn't tie himself into the club long term, so obviously what potentially might happen if we don't pick up results, and he's got nothing to lose, and he's got everything to gain in affecting the team's performance, because we want to bring players that come into the team straight away to affect the results, and I should imagine that the players' ambition as a loan player would be to play as many games between now and the end of the season. So that will be an attractive one, I believe, domestically. Maybe not so in the foreign market. And obviously, to bring the two players in, we've got one domestic loan available and obviously a foreign loan available.
Chris Basham, if selected this weekend, makes his 300th appearance for Sheffield United. I mean, in the modern era, that's quite remarkable anyway. Just what can you say about Chris Basham in terms of the service that he's given to the club?
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of Bash as a person and as a player. And I think I put the TV on a couple of days ago, and there's a rerun of the Swindon Sheffield United game in the playoff semi-final where Bash arrives, and obviously he's done that a couple of times to great effect. But he's just a modern day manager's dream player, that he gets on with it, he gives everything, he's come through in the journey. He's played that position. He's played it ever so well. He'll pop himself into midfield. He'll do whatever that he needs to be done to help this football club. And he's been brilliant for me. And his performances have come through into the Championship, into a promotion-winning season, and his performances last year. And I think everybody on the inside of this football club knows what Bash is about and he's such a funny boy as well, and just a genuine kid and a genuine character, and one that I've really loved working with in my time here at the football club.
How important are people like Chris Basham to the club when you're bringing younger players in, as you've signed this season, and just trying to work with them and give them that sort of bit of guidance around the squad when potentially you or Alan or somebody else isn't there? Yeah,
definitely. They, as you can imagine, the amount of time that they spend on the training ground and the amount of time that they spend in the change room and on coaches and in hotels far outweighs what the time that they spend with me. So it's important that you've got really good senior players, and I've got the likes of David McGoldrick and Bash, who are brilliant role models, who are selfless in their approach, and want to help and want to do well. Of course, individually themselves. Let's not forget. The two boys possibly would not be thinking that 2 or 3 years ago that they would be playing in the Premier League, and they're doing it, and they're great additions to our group. But to have the likes of those two guys about to influence, and our recruitment is young this year, and I'm not embarrassed about that, and it is tough for the young boys when they're going through these periods at the moment, and we all have loved the young players to have learnt their trade in better circumstances, but they have to get on with it, and they'll get plenty of encouragement for the likes of Jags and David McGoldrick and Bash.
Thoughts on Crystal Palace? 1 win in 8, but some good draws against Leicester and Spurs recently. Bit of a mixed bag from them over recent weeks.
Yeah, I think there was a stat there, last year that Crystal Palace are not finished in the top 10. So how difficult this league is, because they're an established Premier League club, not finishing the top 10 for a number of seasons. So that's how hard it is in this division. They've got a fabulous manager, experienced guy, got some really good players, experienced players that we're coming up against, established players, internationals, some really good players at the top of the pitch, and it's always a tough encounter when you play them. 2 really tight games last year, and this is what we're talking about. You're talking about the 11 out of the 14 games this year that we've been on the receiving end. I look at both of those games last year, and all 3 results could have happened. The game down there, our first home game, was a fabulous occasion, and we nicked a tight game 1-0, and we went down there and the goalkeeping error, and we hung on for a 1-0 victory. And this is what it's all about. This is how tight the division is, and Crystal Palace, year in, year out, get the job done, and Roy gets the job done, and he deserves an enormous amount of credit, and the players do, because they're a really solid established Premier League club, and deservedly so.
You've mentioned how hard the last year has been in various aspects. Can you see yourself still managing in 20 years' time, like Roy's doing?
Absolutely not. I don't know how he does it. And I said in the week about Sean and what he's done at Burnley, gone in there and obviously had got promoted, then had a disappointing season, and then come roaring back. And how difficult it is at the elite level of football. So for the likes of somebody like Roy to manage, and I've said it all along, in different countries, managed his country, managing the Premier League, won things, achieved things, and relatively achieving now still at an experienced age, I would say, but a really nice guy, and I think he knows how tough the job is, and for him to come through and still be managing the Premier League, it shows enormous qualities on a lot of fronts.
In terms of the gap at the bottom, just finally from me, Chris, I mean, while ever West Brom have only got one win, Fulham and Brighton have got a couple of wins, there are still teams in touch, and while ever that's the case, is that the belief that you've just got to hang on to them and try and get that win?
Absolutely. We got to start chipping away at it. Of course, we understand that. We're not going to chip away at it if we lose tight games. We've got to come out on the other end of those tight games, as I've talked about today. But you keep chipping away at it, and it's what a dozen at the moment over a period of January, February, March, April, May, 4.5 months. 4.5 months. So you can chip away at it and chip away at it, but you've got to start chipping away at it, and that's got to be our aim. And you've seen what happens with a couple of back-to-back wins. It changes everything, and obviously to get that first one on the board is one that we're desperately trying to do, and then we'll work off that.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, mate.
Chris, I think it's my turn. It's Damien here from PLP.
Hey, Damien.
Hi. Just thinking back to your previous experience in management at Halifax and then later at Northampton, you've been through tough times before. Is there any comparison, anything you can take forward from that, or is this an altogether different level?
Well, it's a different level, but every experience in my opinion is a good one, and what you can take from it, and of course they were experiences. Yeah, they were difficult, and they were different to the ones that we're all facing at the moment. But I think I think the smart managers are the ones that learn right the way through, and through the experiences that I've had, I'm trying to affect our group as well at this particular moment. Not to great effect, obviously, as it looks at the moment, but we're trying and we're all having a go. But to compare it is quite difficult because of the level that we are playing at, Damien, and who we're up against. It is a really huge challenge that we're up against. We go to Burnley Tuesday night. I think we play okay to well. Just we concede a really poor goal, and we don't do as much as we possibly do at the top bit of the pitch. But it's not for the want of trying. We're giving it a go, and we have to keep giving it a go, and hopefully some things will break for us and get a result and get it up and running, and take it from there.
Can you and the players ever manage to switch off, or is it a 24-hour thing?
For me, I don't, as you can imagine. For the players, I wouldn't think so as well, because of their attitude and what they're about as people, not always as football players. I should imagine that they possibly don't have it as much as myself, but it's not a competition. But they will. They're hurting, and they're thinking about it a lot, and they're desperate. I see it. I see the body language. I see the look in their eyes. and I know they're really not enjoying this period, and they're fighting to get out of it, which is all I can ask.
Thanks, Chris. Best of luck.
Cheers, Damien.
Eleanor.
Hi, Chris.
Hey.
Just one, going back to the coronavirus situation, Chris Basham said that there were more tests today. So do you have any concerns about Saturday's game, whether it can go ahead, or are you confident that the outbreak is being contained?
I don't know until the tests come back, the test results come back, but I think the way it's sweeping the country, I wouldn't be surprised. And I think it's starting to grow, and I think obviously after the Christmas period as well, and listening to reading articles and listening to people talking about Christmas Day and New Year's Eve and people getting together, and I'm not sure it's going to get any better considerably sooner than this particular moment. So I wouldn't be surprised over the round of testing now that there'll be more positive tests up and down the country in professional football and in the Premier League.
But you don't have anyone sort of with symptoms who hasn't as yet been tested or tested negative?
No, they obviously know the protocol and they have to flag up if if they have symptoms. But nothing this morning. There was obviously a case with a couple of the players on Tuesday morning. That, as I said, we took them straight to Manchester Airport to get tested through Manchester, to get tested to Manchester Airport, and then we had the results back after 90 minutes, and unfortunately they tested negative, and they could have been involved in the game on Tuesday night.